Hey, what's up YouTube? It's Bobby, aka Paginator, and today we're going to talk about office characters and book recommendations. Since quite a few people seem to enjoy my Office Funko Advent Calendar unboxing, I thought let's do some book recommendations based on Office characters. Now for this, I have kind of thought about each character and what I thought they either might want to read or just something that reminds me of them. And we're going to go through quite a few Office characters today, so let's get ready. So I will tell you that most of these books I'm going to be able to hold up for you, but there are a couple that are currently checked out for my classroom library, so I'll have to just insert a picture and we'll go from there. All right, so let's start with the boss, Michael Gary Scott. And the book that I chose to go with Michael is Charlie and the Chocolate Factory by Roald Dahl. If you're a fan of The Office, you'll know that Michael references this book, although he mainly talks about the movie because he hasn't read the book, when he puts on a golden ticket sales promotion. And I think it's about time he reads that book, especially now that he's got kids. Will be helpful. Now, if you're not familiar with Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, where have you been? But also, it is about a young boy named Charlie who really wants to visit the Willy Wonka chocolate factory in his hometown. Willy Wonka is a famous and eccentric candy maker, and he has sent 5 golden tickets out into the world in his wrapped in his candy bars that he sends, and the 5 lucky children who find these golden tickets get a lifetime supply of chocolate plus a tour of the chocolate factory along with a family member of their choice. Charlie desperately wants to be one of these lucky 5. And we find out what happens in the factory, which is a strange and unexpected type of place. While we're on this note, I would like to put it out there that although I am a diehard Johnny Depp fan, I do like the older movie adaptation with Gene Wilder as Willy Wonka. To me, it is the best one of those two. So if you've seen both of those movies, let me know in the comments below which one you like better. Moving on to Dwight Kurt Schrute. There are so many directions we can go with Dwight. He is a reader and is really into fantasy and references The Hobbit, Lord of the Rings, Harry Potter. There's many things that he references. However, I have a book that just makes me think of Dwight every time I see the cover. And it is There Will Be Bears by Ryan Gebhart. On the cover you can see some stickers. This will happen with a lot of the books I'm holding up today because I pulled them out of my classroom library. I have my name labeled on these. So, There Will Be Bears is about Tyson, who is 13 years old, and he loves spending time with his Grandpa Gene. Grandpa Gene's kind of a rough and tough guy, loves the outdoors. And I'm going to read a little bit of the back to you. It says, Grandpa Gene's a lot more fun than Tyson's ex-best friend, Bright. These days, Bright just wants to hang with the cool kids who make fun of Tyson's Taylor Swift obsession and dorky ways. When Gene moves to a nursing home that can manage his kidney disease, Tyson feels he's losing his best friend. So defying his parents' strict instructions, Tyson sneaks off with Gene on his first elk hunt despite reports of a stalking, man-eating grizzly. There will be action like shooting elk. Is Tyson tough enough? There will be suspense. Is Grandpa Gene too sick to handle the hunt? And yes, there will be bears. Up next, we're going to go with Mr. Jim Halpert. And for this, we're going to go with another classic middle grade book from the Mixed Up Files of Mrs. Basil E. Frankweiler. And here it is. If you remember in the Take Your Daughter to Work Day episode, Jim makes friends with one of the kids who happens to be reading this book, and they have a discussion about it. This is a Newbery Medal award-winning book. It is utterly fantastic. I recently bought it for one of my nieces for her birthday, and I said, please read this because I want to talk about it with you. She hasn't read it yet, but maybe. All right, so we learn Claudia knew that she could never pull off the old-fashioned kind of running away, so she decided to run not from somewhere, but to somewhere. Somewhere large, warm, comfortable, and beautiful. And that's how Claudia and her brother Jamie end up living in the Metropolitan Museum of Art and right in the middle of a mystery that made headlines. 30 years, 2 motion pictures, and millions of devoted fans later, From the Mixed Up Files of Mrs. Basil E. Frankweiler remains a modern classic, a favorite of children and adults alike. This is phenomenal. Read it. Go read it right now. Stop watching this video and go read this book. Alright, if you're still here, we are going to move on to Miss Pam Beasley Halbert. And for Pam, since she is an artist, I chose a book that features a character who's also an artist. We have Punching the Air by E.B. Zoboi and Yusef Salaam. This is a novel told in verse, so it's easy to get through. And it is about a young man who is wrongly convicted of a crime. He is sent to a juvenile detention center, and his art helps him express his frustrations and feelings over being in this place that he truly does not deserve to be in. Side note, Yusef Salaam is one of the exonerated 5, used to be known as the Central Park 5, and he has been through this experience of being wrongly imprisoned himself. So we get knowledge from one of the authors about how this feels, and it is a very powerful story, very moving story, and also does feature art, like I said, which is how I connected this one to Pam. Up next, we're going to go with Ryan Howard, and the book I chose for him is Liar, Liar by Gary Paulsen. May he rest in peace. Yes, Gary Paulsen passed away last month. That's so sad. Anyway, I chose Liar, Liar for Ryan Howard because he's a liar. He lies all the time. This is about Kevin. It says Kevin has a big talent. Some might call it compulsive lying. He calls it common sense. Kev doesn't mean to cause trouble by lying all the time. He's just trying to make everything easier for everyone and himself. And of course, a few harmless falsehoods are crucial to his plan to convince Tina that he's the perfect boyfriend for her. But Kevin's lies spiral out of control until he's faced with the need to do the unthinkable, tell the truth. Teeny tiny, short little book. Very easy to read, plus it's Gary Paulsen. What more could you possibly want? Up next, we're going to go with Miss Kelly Kapoor. And thinking about how Kelly really is into being in love and romantic kind of things, and she loves romantic comedies. And she's also a little bit of a gossip. I chose Listen to Your Heart by Kasie West. Kasie West is a go-to author if you're looking for cute, contemporary, clean, romantic reads. Listen to Your Heart is about a girl who's on a radio show. So I'll read you a little bit about this one. Talking to other people isn't Kate Bailey's favorite activity. She'd much rather be out on the lake soaking up the solitude and sunshine. So when her best friend Alana convinces Kate to join their high school's podcast, not radio show, same thing though, Kate is not expecting to be chosen as its host. Now she'll have to answer calls from listeners and give advice on the air. Impossible. But to Kate's surprise, she turns out to be pretty good at hosting. Then the podcast gets a call from an anonymous guy asking for advice about his unnamed crush. Suddenly, Kate finds that while doling out wisdom to others may be easy, asking for help is tougher than it looks, and following your own advice is even harder. This has some super cute, like flirty, witty banter between characters and just adorableness because it's Kasie West. So pick up Listen to Your Heart. Our next character is Miss Angela Martin, head of accounting. When the fire episode happens and they play Desert Island, she names her top choice book as the Bible, and then A Purpose-Driven Life, and then the Da Vinci Code so she could set it on fire. Well, since I wanted to focus on books geared towards kids and young adults and wanting to leave the Bible out of it because it's a religious text, I chose for Angela 365 Days of Wonder. This is by R.J. Palacio, who wrote the book Wonder, and this is Mr. Brown's Precepts. If you're familiar with Wonder, we have a middle school teacher named Mr. Brown who teaches precepts or quotes or thoughts to his students. And I thought this might fit Angela because it's full of like inspirational quotes and different inspiring things, and I thought she might enjoy that. So I just kind of randomly flipped open to a page. We have a quote from Thomas Jefferson. When you come to the end of your rope, tie a knot in it and hang on. Buddha, be a lamp unto yourself. Aldous Huxley, there's only one corner of the universe you can be certain of improving, and that's your own self. So I feel like Angela would approve of this book. Our next character is Oscar, and he is a member of the Finer Things Club, and they do have a book club. None of the books they read actually in the show for Finer Things Club are young adult or middle grade, so I thought, okay, if they were going to go with young adult, or if I were to join the Finer Things Club, what would I bring to the table? And I am bringing Salt to the Sea by Ruta Sepetys. This author is absolutely phenomenal. She specializes in taking little-known historical events and writing heart-wrenching novels centered around these events. This one is about something that happened in 1945. There was a ship that sank, and it was a greater disaster than the Titanic. Our story is told by 4 different teenagers. Okay, each of them has a secret of some kind, and they take turns narrating the story. The little blurb on the inside tells us, each one born of a different homeland, each one hunted and haunted by tragedy, lies, and war. As thousands of desperate refugees flock to the coast in the midst of a Soviet advance, 4 paths converge, vying for passage aboard the Wilhelm Gustloff, a ship that promises safety and freedom, yet not all promises can be kept. Inspired by the single greatest tragedy in maritime history, best-selling and award-winning author Ruta Sepetys lifts the veil on shockingly little-known casualty of World War II, an illuminating and life-affirming tale of heart and hope. And that it really is. One of the narrators is a young German soldier, and the rest are on the Allies side of the war, if I remember correctly. But this is beautifully written. It does take a little bit to kind of sort out the narrators in your mind, but once you're a couple chapters in for each one, you're like, okay, I got this. So definitely a book worth picking up. Our next character, since we're rolling through the accountants, is Kevin Malone. And Kevin really likes to cook. At one point in the office, he says he's working his way through Julia Child's cookbook, and then after that, he's going to work on the Twilight cookbook. So I chose for Kevin Twilight. This is my first copy of Twilight that my students used like 16 years ago, and it's beat all to heck. But this book, I mean, it gets a lot of shade nowadays, but this book is responsible for a lot of kids getting excited about reading, so I'm going to be grateful for this book. If you're not familiar with Twilight, I don't know where you've been living, but it is about a young girl named Bella who moves to Forks, Washington to live with her father, and she meets a strange guy at school, Edward Cullen, who turns out to be a vampire. Meanwhile, one of her good friends that she's known since a child, she kind of has lived back and forth between places, is Jacob, who comes from a family of werewolves. Vampires and werewolves are mortal enemies. So she has stuck in between her friend and this guy she's starting to be really attracted to, and what is going to happen when the vampires and werewolves have to face off. It's a pretty darn good book if you are just looking to get into paranormal romance. I would suggest reading Twilight at least once so you can say, okay, now I get it. And then you can decide which team you're on. Team Jacob or Team Edward. I'm always going to be Team Jacob, and I will argue with you about this for hours, so let's not get me started down that track. Up next, we're going to go with Creed Bratton. Creed is quite an enigma, but in the murder episode, when they're playing the murder game, he arrives a bit late, and Michael says, "There has been a murder," and Creed goes running off. So we're using that as inspiration for this book. This is What Waits in the Woods by Kieran Scott. This is easily one of the creepiest books, like I have to stop reading this at nighttime kind of books that I have read in a while. It says, for city girl Kelly Velasquez, nothing sounds more terrifying than a night out in the wilderness, but wanting to bond with her popular new best friends, she agrees to join them on a camping trip. Teenagers in the woods? At least Callie's sweet new boyfriend Jeremy will be coming too. But the group loses half their food supply. They lose their way, and with strange sounds all around her, the snap of a twig, a sinister laugh, Callie wonders if she's losing her mind. Tensions swirl among the group, with dark secrets suddenly revealed, and then things take a fatal turn. Callie stumbles upon a cold, dead body in the woods. Is the murderer close by watching them? Callie has to figure out where she can turn and whom she can trust before her own life is at stake. Super creepy. If Creed really is a murderer, perhaps he could identify with one of the characters in this book. Next up is Miss Meredith. There's a lot of things about Meredith that I could make connections to, but one of the things that she is passionate about is advocating for dyslexia because her son is dyslexic, and I picked Maggot Moon, which is a Prince Honor book that features a dyslexic character. So in Maggot Moon, we have a young man. You can see on the cover he's got different colored eyes. His name is Standish. The dust jacket says, what if the football hadn't gone over the wall? On the other side of the wall, there is a dark secret and the devil and the moon man. And the motherland doesn't want anyone to know. But Standish Treadwell, who has different colored eyes, who can't read, can't write, that's the dyslexia thing. Standish Treadwell isn't bright. So the can't read, can't write, Standish Treadwell isn't bright is a thing that's used to kind of mock him. He sees things differently from the rest of the train track thinkers. And so when Standish and his only friend and neighbor Hector make their way to the other side of the wall, they see what Motherland has been hiding, and it's big. So this takes place in, oh gosh, I can't remember if it's Germany or Russia. Anyway, a very tightly controlled country with lots of propaganda and things going on that are not what they seem. And so even though Standish has this difficulty with his dyslexia and people make fun of him, he still has to work with his friend to figure out what's going on. It is a phenomenal mystery story with such unique characters. It's unlike anything that I have read. And Prince Metal books are all about the quality of the writing. So if you want to look for well-written books, look for books with this big silver P Prince Metal sticker on them. Up next we have Mrs. Phyllis Vance, of course married to Bob Vance of Vance Refrigeration. Phyllis loves purple, and she also loves a good romance book. In one of the episodes, she was reading 50 Shades of Grey or listening to the audiobook. So I picked 2 titles for Phyllis, both of which are romantic and both of which are purple. So we're going to start with Cinderella is Dead by Kalynn Bayron. This is a Cinderella retelling with LGBT couple. Cinderella is not the main character, actually. Cinderella lived 200 years ago. Now, teen girls are required to appear at the annual ball where the men of the kingdom select wives based on the girls' display of finery. If a suitable match is not found, the girls not chosen are never heard from again. 16-year-old Sophia would much rather marry Aaron, her childhood best friend, Aaron being a girl, than parade in front of suitors. At the ball, Sophia makes the desperate decision to flee and finds herself hiding in Cinderella's mausoleum. There she meets Constance, the last known descendant of Cinderella, and her stepsisters. Together they vow to bring down the king once and for all, and in the process they learn there's more to Cinderella's story than they ever knew. This was a phenomenal read. Again, fairy tale retelling with LGBT rep, purple, romantic for Phyllis. And my second Phyllis pick, I couldn't help myself, I had to go with both of these. Another LGBT romantic kind of rom-com story, You Should See Me in a Crown by Leah Johnson. This is about a young girl, Liz Leidy, who really wants to go to college, and her scholarship opportunity kind of fell apart. So she decides to compete for prom queen, because in her small conservative town, prom queen is a lot more than just winning a popularity contest. You have to earn it, you have to do community service hours, you have to get votes for doing different requirements, and there is a scholarship that goes with it. So can this black queer girl become their town's first non-white straight prom queen? Super cute story. Our next character is Stanley Hudson, and Stanley is a lot of things. One of the things he is, though, is a vacationer. He's all about the summer, the Florida vibes, like loving that hot summertime situation. Stanley also has a couple of romances going on. Perhaps some he shouldn't be having. So I picked a romance that takes place over summer break. This is 10 Things I Hate About Pinky by Sandhya Menon. Pinky can be a little bit standoffish, which Stanley also can be. So there's another further tie there, right? Anyway, Pinky, she's quite the girl. She really wants to be like a social justice warrior, but mostly because of the attention that it will get her, like the likes and follows and that kind of thing. We meet her and she's like staging this photo shoot, and you're like, okay girl, you don't really care about this cause. What are you doing? Anyway, our other character is Samir, and he knows Pinky doesn't really care for her. He really wants to be a lawyer, and he has planned this summer internship in New York, and Pinky's going to Cape Cod. They're going in different directions, but Samir's internship falls through. Pinky's mother happens to be a lawyer, and a really, really good one, and if he could somehow, like, meet her, kind of make nice with Pinky's mom, that might, like, give him an in into the lawyer world. And so Pinky, she's getting in trouble with her parents a lot, and she kind of blurts out, and I forget why she says this, but she's like, but I do have a boyfriend, and he's gonna come to spend some of the summer with us. And then she's like, oh, I don't have a boyfriend. And her parents will only accept, like, an upstanding, good guy kind of boyfriend. And she thinks of Samir. So she reaches out to him and says, I need you to come be my fake boyfriend, and I can get you an internship with my mom. So we have a fake dating trope, and you know what usually happens in those. But Pinky also gets a chance to do some actual social justice work for a good cause that she actually cares about. So there are some fun, lighthearted romantic times in this one, and you should definitely give it a go. Up next for Toby Flenderson, we had to pick a mystery because he loves a good mystery. He likes the crime solving kind of figure out the answer to the puzzle kind of situation. So I chose The Red Blazer Girls. This is by Michael D. Beale, and it's actually the first in a series. The technical title of this first book is The Ring of Rockmandur, and The Red Blazer Girls is the series. It all began with the scream and ended with, well, if we told you that, it wouldn't be a mystery. But in between the scream and the very surprising ending, three friends find themselves on a scavenger hunt set up for a girl they've never met in search of a legendary ring reputed to grant wishes. Are these sleuths in school uniforms modern-day equivalents of Nancy, Harriet, or Scooby? Not really. They're just three nice girls who decide to help out a weird lady and end up hiding under tables, tackling word puzzle, and searching rather moldy storage rooms for the stuff that dreams are made of. That's from an old detective novel. Oh, and there's a boy who complicates things, as boys often do. Intrigued? Read The Red Blazer Girls. I thought Toby might enjoy this kind of book because it involves a lot of decoding and putting together puzzle pieces to solve a mystery. Our next character is Darryl Philbin. We know Darryl as the manager of the warehouse for most of the series of The Office, but eventually he goes to work for a sports marketing company, and he is very, very much into sports. And I thought, let's bring in another genre of fiction here with some sports plus magic. This is Ipaka, the Tree of Ekroth. It is created by Kobe Bryant, yes, that Kobe Bryant, and written by Ivy Clare. This book also is textured and it feels like a basketball, which is fortunate because it's about basketball and magic. Also, the pages, I'm talking every page in this book, is rainbow colored. Like, could this be more beautiful? I kind of don't think so. And it comes with a ribbon bookmark. Enough about the looks, let's get to the book. It is set in an alternate classical world dominated by sports and magic power called Guarana. Ipaka, the Tree of Ekroth, is the story of two children, the orphaned outcast Rovi and the crown princess Pretia, who uncover and battle terrible evil and discover their inner strength along the way. Ipaka takes place at the most elite sports academy in the land, where the best child athletes are sent to hone their skills. When Rovi and Pretia arrive, each harboring a secret about themselves, they begin to suspect that something malicious is at play at the school. In the course of their first year, they must learn to master their Guarana in order to save the world. If you don't know anything at all about basketball, you might want to watch a couple of basketball for dummies videos on YouTube or something before picking up this book, because there's a lot of basketball terminology in here. But it's a really fantastic story, and I hope that the series continues, because now that Kobe's gone, I just hope that Ivy Clare keeps working on the series. Our next character is Jan Levinson Gould, known mostly as Jan Levinson throughout the series. Jan, this was the toughest category for me to find, and I'm still not 100% confident in my choice of book. Jan, ultimately, I got on Dunderpedia and read her profile over again, hoping to pick up things, and everything just kind of combines to make someone who's very selfish and self-involved. Even with her interactions with her daughter, it's very much about herself. So it immediately made me think of Scarlet from Gone with the Wind, but that's not a YA or middle grade book, so I was like, okay, who else is a center of attention kind of gal? And I thought of Ridley from the Beautiful Creatures series. Ridley is a cousin to one of the main characters, and she always has a lollipop in her mouth. She's one of those people where everybody knows when Ridley's walking into the room and just clear the area, here she comes. Kind of also like Meryl Streep's character in The Devil Wears Prada. Like, everyone gird your loins, she's on her way. Ridley causes all kinds of chaos and havoc in this series. But to tell you about the first book in the series, this is about Ethan. He lives in a small southern town in Gatlin. And Lena Duquesnes is our other main character. She is unlike anyone that this town has ever seen, and she's struggling to conceal the fact that she has powers, and a curse that has haunted her family for generations. But even within the overgrown gardens, murky swamps, and crumbling graveyards of the forgotten South, a secret cannot stay hidden forever. So here comes Ethan, who has been counting the months and days until he can escape from Gatlin, and he's haunted by the dreams of a beautiful girl he has never met. When Lena moves into the town's oldest and most infamous plantation, Ethan inexplicably is drawn to her and determined to uncover the connection between them. In a town with no surprises, one secret could change everything. So we have magic in here, we have other paranormal elements that I can't tell you about because it'll spoil things. But it's paranormal romance from a male point of view, which is really nice and refreshing, and it's just very unique amongst all of the paranormal romance that we have. You know, when Twilight first came out, everybody wrote vampire romances, and then we got fallen angels and all kinds of things. This is unique. So definitely give this one a try. Our next character, are you exhausted yet? is Holly Flax. Holly, we learn in The Office, has read Lonesome Dove 3 times. So I thought she would appreciate this book, Vengeance Road by Aaron Bowman. This is a young adult Western. Look at how gorgeous the cover is. And this is about a young girl who is 18. Her name's Kate. Her father is murdered for purposes of obtaining his journal, which contains a location of a hidden cache of gold. And Kate decides that in order to take revenge for her father's death, she's going to disguise herself as a boy, head out on the plains, and look for answers and justice. Reading a little bit here, what she finds are untrustworthy strangers, endless dust and heat, and surprising band of allies, among them a young Apache girl and a pair of stubborn brothers who refuse to quit riding in her shadow. But as Kate gets closer to the secrets about her family, a startling truth becomes clear. Some men will stop at nothing to get their hands on gold, and Kate's quest for revenge may prove fatal. Okay, our next character is Miss Erin Hannon, and for Miss Erin, I chose Pippi Longstocking. Pippi Longstocking is a classic children's book about a young, precocious, redheaded girl who's a little bit ditzy, a little bit, like, goofballish, doesn't really have everything going on together, which is similar to Erin. You know, we love her, but she's a little bit ditzy and a little bit quirky, and she's a redhead. We love gingers, by the way. Pippi lives on her own. There is rumored that a treasure is in her house, but her father's a sailor on the high seas, so he's off away. And the two kids, Tommy and Annika, who lives next door, are really interested in this strange girl, and they become friends and have all kinds of adventures. There's a super cute movie adaptation that came out when I was a kid, and I've watched it like a bajillion times. Really fun. Our last office character is Mr. Andy Bernard, the Nard Dog. And if you know anything about Andy, you know that not only did he go to Cornell, but he was in a very successful a cappella group there called Here Comes Treble. And on that note, pun, we have this book, Turn It Up by Jen Kalinita. This is set at Bradley Academy. Their all-girl a cappella group used to be the pride of the Sunshine State, but the Nightingales have recently fallen out of harmony. Best friends and co-captains Lydia Sato and Sydney Mariano haven't been speaking ever since a boy came between them. And not just any boy, none other than Griffin Mancini, the lead singer of Bradley Academy's smug all-boy a cappella group, the Kingfishers. The Nightingales have no chance of making it to the big state final if their captains are at each other's throats. Their only hope is a new girl, Juliana Ramirez. But in addition to her serious pipes, she has some serious stage fright. The Nightingales will have to come together if they want to shine at the upcoming competition and restore the group to its former glory. Doesn't that sound cute? Like, Makes me want to go watch Pitch Perfect right now. Alright, so we didn't hit every single character that ever appears in The Office, but we got a whole heck of a lot of them, and we've been through a lot of books. So, thanks for sticking with me. Let me know in the space below if you've read any of these books or any of them sound interesting to you. Have a wonderful, magical, and bookish day. Happy reading. Adios.